Salutations readers, welcome back to the City Girl Writer channel. My name is Nkechi and today I am doing the Finally Fall book tag. Now, I do not know who created this book tag. Unfortunately, when I was trying to search for the creator, like the original video, I think it has been privated, so that's unfortunate. So I have no idea who the original tag is, but I was inspired to participate in this tag because of Angela from Literature Science Alliance, that she recently posted her video on the Finally Fall book tag, and I was like, you know what? This sounds like the perfect tag to do, because finally Minnesota has actually been feeling like autumn right now. Now, these temperatures, they ain't gonna last long. So I'm just like, you know what? Why not just record a video like this when it's actually autumn outside? Yeah, and I also try and keep in mind of the fact that I want to really keep the books that I've read this year on this, for this tag video. Because I do see myself doing this kind of like annually, so I try to will keep all the books to books I've read this year, and very, very little on books I've read any other year. Let's actually just get right into it. In fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. This one is actually kind of hard just to pick really one book. Honestly, I really could have picked so many books, especially since I've been reading a lot of modern Gothic novels, and they tend to have vivid, atmospheric writing. Like, it's all there. So I decided to just pick one Gothic novel, and I'm going to be talking about Trip in Arcadia by Kit Makequist. This one I read back in, I think, April. I really, really like this one. It definitely has like a vivid setting because this takes place in, where are we again? Boston. So we're in the elite suburban countryside of Boston, Massachusetts, and there's a vivid setting talking about the lavish parties and gatherings that our main character Lena has to pretty much work for this family. And yeah, it's definitely very much vivid. It's definitely giving like Great Gatsby vibe for sure. So this one's book with a vivid setting, but you know, any other Gothic novel book I've read this year could easily fit for this prompt. Nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with a heavy topic. This one could also fit for just about almost all and any modern Gothic book that I've been reading this year. But I decided with one that I think has been known for it to be pretty flowery purple prose, but once you actually read, there is something dark and sinister in it. And I'm talking about The Last Tale of the Flower by Roshani Chokshi. I did read this one in May, so there'll be wrap-up video for that one. And this one also has really beautiful writing. I mean, it's most of the common things that people talk about, that the writing is very much lush, beautiful, vivid, again, like the first question. But it does deal with pretty heavy topics, especially with abuse. But there's child abuse, emotional abuse, child neglect, toxic friendship. I'm like, y'all, it's in this book. I definitely recommend this one. Again, look in my wrap up for actual full thoughts on the book itself. But definitely really well written, really love the writing, and definitely dealt with some heavier topics that I didn't think would actually be discussed here, but it did. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. Now, this is actually a book as I'm recording, I literally read this book this week. Actually, like I think a couple of days ago, or was it yesterday? I don't remember time anymore. But yeah, this is definitely a nonfiction book, which honestly, I don't really read a lot of nonfiction, but this was something that I just saw and I was like, nope, I gotta read this one. I have to read it, especially since it's something that definitely, I think, affects me in a sense that I didn't even know about. But I'm talking about There Was a Country, A Personal History of Biafra by Chinua Achebe. This one is pretty much a memoir of Chinua Achebe's life, but really more focusing on Biafra, which, if you do not know, was a country that was trying to succeed from Nigeria after the Nigerian independence. And, well, things did not go as Biafrans thought they would, to the point that, well, now there are repercussions of that war still affecting Igbos today. And yeah, if you do not know, I'm Nigerian American, specifically Igbo, so this was definitely something I really need to read. And it's not something that's really not just taught, but I guess especially not in American schools, but it's definitely not really even taught, I don't think, even in modern Nigeria. Again, if it is taught, correct me, but as far as I know, it doesn't seem like something that's actually been actively talked about, taught, or fairly discussed. But you could definitely tell that the ramifications of the war still affects modern Nigeria today. And yeah, this was just something I really needed to read. So yeah, it's a nonfiction book. In order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, friend group that you like to be a part of. This one was a little bit difficult. Yeah, I think this one was actually kind of difficult because of the fact that whenever I do read a lot of books, but I don't really read a lot of books where there's a pretty substantial friend group, found family, household kind of thing that I actually want to be a part of. Sometimes I just read them and I'm just like, oh no, this sounds nice, I don't know if I really want to be a part of it, but this sounds nice. But I do think that this particular actually series of books is actually really made me go, yeah, I really am actually invested in these characters. I actually would love to be their friend, like if I was around their age. And I'm talking about the Insipidity Scripts series. So that's Akata Witch, Akata Warrior, and Akata Woman, written by Nnedi Okorafor. I really like the friendship group between Sunny, Orlu, Sasha, and Chi-Chi. I really like their friendship group. They definitely get into some kind of trouble, but they do very much care for each other. And I think that's a kind of friend group I really would have liked it when I was around their age. They're definitely, it's a young adult series, so, I'm definitely older. But, if I was around their age, I actually would have liked to be part of their friend group, honestly. And it's definitely a series I definitely recommend y'all reading. As I'm recording, though, I am currently reading Akata Woman. Yes, I am indeed currently reading Akata Woman, and I'm very much enjoying it. The colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-covered spines. I don't really have any books, honestly, that will fit this. So I'm kind of honestly just skipping this one. Sorry, but I really don't actually own a lot of books, or any books really, that have fall-colored spines. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. This one was easy. Very, very, very easy. Because I recently read it in September, and I have a whole video dedicated to that book itself. And I'm talking about The Spirit Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I already did a book review video on this one, so card, description, if y'all want to know my full thoughts on this one. But yeah, this is pretty much like a story within a story within a story. And part of the story is actually a story told from our unnamed narrator, protagonist kind of person, and being told from their Lola, and then also that same unnamed narrator is also looking at it as a play, and then we actually get to see the actual story of the play itself. So yes, this is definitely like a story within a story within a story, and I do think this is definitely the perfect kind of book to read. Sure, it's more of a chonker, but as you can tell with all the tabs, I've been loving it, and I always recommend it. Again, this is adult fantasy literary book, sophomore novel, Simon Jimenez, the author of The Vanished Birds. I'm like, y'all need to read this, please. But also check out video where I talked about this book more extensively. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. This one, honestly, I really could not think of actually only just the one book to represent this, but this is really something I've been reading. I actually been reading a lot of books that have been dark and creepy because I've been reading a lot of gothic novels this year. So, more modern gothic novels, I should say. I don't really read much of the classics, but I do read more of the modern ones. And I do have 3 that I definitely want to show y'all. So first up, I have Saarland by River Solomon. This is, I think, River Solomon's... I think this is their most recent work. But this is an adult, queer, gothic horror with a sci-fi element, and it deals with fungi. And I really, really like this book. I love this book. It's one of the best books I've read this year. Definitely top 5 for sure. I read this back in February, and I just really like this one because it was definitely dark in the sense of that we're following a 16-year-old who literally gave birth to twins in the forest to escape this religious cult, and she's trying to just survive basically. And then she's some developments, things change, her body's changing afterwards, and slowly you can see that the actual horror. There's actually definitely a lot of body horror in here, so definitely try the precaution in that one. And also there is indeed a graphic birth scene in the very first chapter, so be aware of that. But it's definitely on the creepy side because of how the body horror comes into play and how the cult that Vern escaped from is still trying to capture her. It's a whole thing. Definitely highly recommend this one. And then a book, and actually this one's actually a novella, so if you want something a little bit on the shorter side just to get a snippet of, I did read this one also in April, and this one is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. We're following, I think, a retired soldier who goes into the House of Usher, but there's some creepy things that's been going on, something to do with fungi and rabbits, just like you look at the cover here. And yeah, even the end pages, is very, very much creepy like. Oh, and it's actually something even underneath it. Look at that. The actual house of Usher. So, yes, I definitely do recommend this one. It's definitely more of a quicker read. And the writing is gives that very dark creepiness. It's very much dark. It's very much creepy because there's actual really grotesque descriptions of not just the body horror in here, but also of the actual fungi and how it's affecting these rabbits. It's very much disgusting. I was disgusted by it and highly, highly recommend this one, especially if you want to start a very short but quick and unsettling read. And then finally, for this dark and creepy read, it's actually a book I also recently read in, I think, September. And I am talking about Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. If you don't know, this one is a book that kind of took some aspect of the booktube community and just the book community in general in the storm, because this is a debut modern gothic novel, specifically also dark academia, but also is like a queer literary suspense. And we do follow Inez while she's going into this secluded university, pretty much where she and her other classmates are isolated from the world, and they spend like 3 whole years in Catherine House. And it was very much dark, because it was dark and creepy, because, like, again, that place was literally like a cult, and it's definitely on the dark side because of the kind of things that I thought was so unsettling, that how, like, there's so many weird things, so much isolation and not really having access to the other world, and the way these classes are, I just thought it was very much unsettling for me. But I do have a reading vlog where I dedicated my time to reading Catherine House. Again, I will link that, all cards, description. Y'all gonna get the links. It's in there. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up someone's cold and rainy day. This one was pretty difficult, honestly, because, well, I don't really read actually a lot of heartwarming books, so, you know, I'm not usually the kind of person for short, heartwarming reads, but I have been loving this manga series, and I do think that this manga series is a great example of just, like, something that, sure, in the backdrop is still very much, not like creepy, but there's definitely some tension, some agency, but it is still pretty much heartwarming for me, because I love me the found family trope, and I will talk about Spy Family. I do own all 9 volumes. Now, as I'm recording, the 10th volume will be published, I think, October 17th, and I have read all 9 volumes. I already own all 9 volumes, but again, this is a setup of Spy Twilight, where he has to pretty much form a fake family. Wife is assassin, daughter is a telepath. None of them know that, none of them know, except for Anya, who is the daughter. She's a telepath. She knows that her adoptive parents are like an assassin and a spy, and it's a whole bunch of things. But also there's a backdrop of actually also the fact that this takes place during like a fictional setting, but it is inspired by like the Cold War. Despite the fact that there is definitely some sinister dark things going on in the background with the story, it's still pretty much focusing on the actual fact that this is indeed the found family trope, basically. And I think this is indeed a heartwarming read, and it's just really nice just to see them forming a family, especially this early on and stuff, and to see how they just learn to care for each other. So yeah, I say this is a heartwarming series. So yeah, it's cute. If you like it, recommend it. Fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. I actually was also trying to figure out this one as well, but I was thinking, like, what's something that's also autumnal that I'm just like, yeah, I actually would like to read this. Like, maybe not every year, because again, I'm not really much of a rereader, honestly. I definitely do this more like once every maybe couple of years, just when I have some time away from the book itself, since I do tend to quite remember a lot. And I don't know, just some distance away from it, you know. But I do think that this book in particular, that I did read last year, but I didn't get to really talk about, but it is actually a book that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. And I do think that I actually would like to come back to this soon. And I'm talking about A Fall Wilder Magic by Alison Saft. You don't know, this is young adult, fantasy, cozy, cottagecore fantasy romance, which again, I did not know this was fantasy romance until, I mean, I do know that there'll be a romantic element, but I did not know that the romance would be a more of a heavy part of the story. But this one really worked for me. I actually heard of this because of Hannah from A Clockwork Reader, and she described this book as Roy and Riza fanfic. So that pretty much already got me into it. Now, if you don't know, I do have all omnibus editions of Fullmetal Alchemist right here, and you actually can see reads a Hawkeye right there. So this one, I'm definitely a fan of Fullmetal Alchemist, and I definitely do indeed love Colonel Mustang and Lieutenant Hawkeye and their dynamic. But think of this one as like kind of like them. It's pretty much true that this does really like this is what they would have been like if they were younger and in a totally different world. But the dynamic is very much similar. But it does have it does stand on its own 2 feet, and I do appreciate that. I was very much invested in this story between Margaret and Wes and how they grew to love each other. And actually, it's definitely a slow burn, which I also really, really loved. And I also liked how this was also pretty introspective because it is also dual POV. So if you're someone who likes a romance book or fantasy romance that's dual POV, this one's it for you. But this is indeed young adult, but that didn't stop me. I love this book, okay? And I definitely kind of want to see if I can try to actually reread it. It has been a while. I just really, really like this one. And also, look at the cover. It's very much giving autumn. It actually does take place in autumn too, so definitely highly recommend this one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the questions and all the books that you know, pretty much fit for this autumnal vibe. And actually, these are books that I do wholeheartedly recommend to y'all. But definitely this time of year, I definitely have been reading a lot more atmospheric books, vivid, descriptive, dealing with heavier topics and stuff. But you know, every once in a while, trying to go something a little bit cozy. Once in a while though, so no promises. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all for coming on to this video. If you like it, subscribe, click on the bell so y'all be notified when I upload videos or do reading sprints. Comment down below on maybe your responses to these questions. Maybe if you've read any of these books that I've talked about here, or do you have any other books that pretty much fit for the autumnal vibe. And if you made it this far into the video and you want to leave me an emoji, leave me a fall leaf emoji of any kind, something autumnal emoji. So again, thank you all again for coming to this video, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye.